Hi, doing everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Weekend Recap on this Saturday night. That is Saturday, November 21st, 2020. I am Isman X, and this is Jade Nikki here. And yes, before we get started, everything that we are going to talk about on this episode. Um, this is pretty much our opinion. Um, Anything that we say and talk about here doesn't necessarily reflect the views of the people that are behind this platform or the wrestling companies that we talk about. So, with that said, now don't have a cow, man. All right, Jade, we are here already near Survivor Series. This is pretty much Survivor Series weekend. It'll be tomorrow night on, of course, the network. Um, the pretty much everything is a go. Also, the final farewell to one of the greatest characters that we have witnessed already within a 30-year stretch. We're talking about the Undertaker. I cannot wait to see how that is going to be prepared for us to see tomorrow night. But we will get to that later on in the show. So, first things first, we are going to start with, from what I understand, you got something that you want to address first. Once I get, or I look into the topic that I want to address, but I'm going to let you go first.
Thank you very much, Isman. Before we start addressing all the issues regarding or the plans regarding what's going to take place tomorrow night at Survivor Series, including the celebration of one of the most celebrated superstars in all of WWE history, man, the Phenom, the Undertaker. I don't know if any of you out in watching us through social media, watching us through YouTube at this very moment, have found out, but there has been confirmed that as of as of last week, there were three of what were Impact Wrestling's celebrated superstars. They formed this trio. What they call them, the names were Zachary Wentz, Des Bryant, and Trey Miguel. They call themselves the Rascals, and they are just been a confirmation that these three men have officially signed with WWE. For those of you who follow the Rascals as much as I did when I watched Impact Wrestling, these are three great wrestlers. These are great lightweights, talented. They can come together. They can bring it on in the ring. And of course, I just want to say that last Tuesday when these three men had their farewell on Impact, it was truly a bittersweet moment because for these wrestlers, for these athletes, this is an opportunity of a lifetime, and they feel that they finally paid their dues in Impact Wrestling on the independent circuit, and now it's time to conquer the big time that is the WWE. And a lot of people are contemplating how will the Rascals be used once they earn the stripes in the WWE. I say you gotta give these guys a chance because no one knows the Rascals somewhat like I do. Because like I mentioned, Trey, Zachary, Des, these guys can bring it in the ring. I mean, they may not be like the New Day, but they can be themselves, and that's what it's all about. I say they have the potential to get over, and pretty much for me personally, on behalf of myself, I just want to wish Zach and Des and Trey the best that they got going on because after giving a spectacular farewell this past Tuesday in Impact Wrestling, and once they make it to WWE, hopefully the sky will be the limit for these three men.
Well, my best wishes to those guys who are looking to step it up a notch, and now they're going to be part of WWE. So I heard something about that, and I believe they're going to start out with a performance center type of deal, and of course they'll eventually be a part of NXT. So hats off to those guys, to Trey Miguel, Zachary Wentz, and Des Bryant. Hopefully we get to see you guys on WWE television real soon. And now the thing that I wanted to address is pretty much an update with what happened in the beginning of this week, talking about the topic of unionization and in regards with Zelina Vega. So it turns out, Jade, that the real reason for her release was pretty much because she went in breach of contract, and like I mentioned before, I think it was a third party type of website that she was a part of, where she was just pretty much whether liking selling pictures or whatnot to her fans that are a part of that third party website that she was a part of. And as we go into the story, I pretty much got it on notes here that the reason for her release was, of course, she was in breach of contract. Other than, of course, that, on Twitter, WWE has stated out that they came into terms with Zelina Vega and that, she was let go from the company. 10 minutes later, after the fact, of course, she retweeted and stated, "I support unionization." So, over this past weekend, the theories have been floating around as to why, the release. And, many have been thinking that it had to do with, her streaming channel on Twitch. After WWE had told her talent to pretty much, cut it out, and wasn't the case. So the third party website that she was a part of was obviously her account with OnlyFans. That's what it had to do. So that's why, because of it, she was in breach of her contract. So Sports Illustrated confirmed that Zelina opening an OnlyFans account last month was considered a breach of contract after talent was told no longer have any third-party accounts with their own revenue stream. So the report stated that the company felt that Vega was challenging them by opening the account. Specifically Vince McMahon, he considered it a breach of contract, and upper management in the company felt like she boxed the higher-ups into a corner. So it was also stated that with her release, it confirms that WWE, of course, will strictly be enforcing this new mandate going forward. And, no matter how unpopular this decision is, it's gonna fly after this. It's pretty much gonna stick. So the questions are still ensue for, with Aleister Black. He's still a part of WWE. He's still part of the SmackDown brand. The SmackDown brand, right? I believe. But he has been seen after the release of Zelina Vega. He wanted to go back to NXT. He wanted to go back there to NXT, but his request was, of course, denied. And that's pretty much the deal. So now moving forward, Jade, now the whole world's pretty much watching. She's gaining more fans on her account. They're showing support, but also there's this SAG deal going on too, where this type of unionization, it's having its supporters as well, and they're pretty much riding behind Zelina Vega, and they are showing love and support all the way for standing up to herself. I mean, standing up for herself, believing in herself that she can make a go of this. And I think where she's at right now, it's only going to be the beginning for her.
Well, let me just point out by saying that that it's like I said before. I mean, Zelina Vega in no way, shape, or form was giving away what is happening on the WWE scene. I mean, yes, they told her for all intents and purposes you cannot have a third party account. And yeah, and yes, she defied what is construed as a direct mandate from the company, and the ramifications from her defiance caused her to be unemployed. And because of that, they're saying, yeah, any superstar within the WWE who relies on third party, as long as there are parameters to say they are not allowed to take what is going on the scene directly on it. Now, pretty much, I mean, do I believe that Aleister Black has a legitimate gripe? Of course. I mean, he does have a legitimate gripe in saying that they cannot penalize a talent just because they have a third party account, knowing full well that they were not in any way, shape, or form leaking what they're doing. They're not leaking their what is construed their job to the WWE universe. As far as the unionization is concerned, excuse me. As far as unionization is concerned, if there are other superstars like AJ Styles, like and anybody who
Cesaro and Big E
and Big E,
Xavier Woods, you know, pretty much all those guys that that like to game and stream and pretty much have an outside contact with the WWE universe when they're not, seen on WWE television, and they have that following outside of live television and sports entertainment.
That feels like that she does. They say it's not fair to say that they have to forcefully shut down the third party channel. All they could say is they had to find a way with the office to say we want to keep our channel as long as there are parameters to say they cannot leak what they're doing, because these superstars have their public side, but they have the private side as well. What we're seeing on third party is the private side, not the public side. But it's kind of hard to see as to why the office wants to handcuff these superstars as they're saying, because the image is pretty much what they're trying to protect. That's understandable, but there comes a time as an employer where you have to give your employees the benefit of the doubt and say, if they're not in any way, shape, or form giving away what the plans are, what the show, what they expect to see on television, then basically you got no problem, as long as you have a parameter to say, okay, this is your public me, this is your private me. Keep those facets separate. Pretty sure they could possibly come to an understanding.
That's right. And with this, we move on to the next topic in this segment that I like to call pregnancy updates. We're going to start off first with the news of what took place also on the beginning of this week. On the 17th of this month, we've got to see on social media the first public photos that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins showed to the world. And, I got to say, those were some, very awesome, cool, exquisite photos of the couple, and of course showing the baby bump that Becky Lynch has at this point. It's just simply amazing, and it's just a matter of time before we get the news that she finally has her child. I still believe that it could be a baby girl. I don't know, something told me on the inside when I was watching that promo in March of when Becky Lynch relinquished her Raw Women's title to Asuka, and you know, into the shoot of her announcing that, you know, that Asuka's got the title, and then at that point, Becky said she was going to go home and be a mom, and the tears of joy just broke out on both sides. Something just told me that it's going to be a baby girl. I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't know how the rest of the universe or world, or wrestling world feels about this, but when the time comes, and it ain't like I'm in a a money pool or anything that says, oh no, I bet X amount of money saying that Becky Lynch is gonna have a baby girl. No, that is not the case. I just felt it instantly in the beginning once that news broke out on television, and I don't know, just something tells me that it's a baby girl, and I guess we'll see once that time comes where you know Becky and Seth share that news with the world. And while we're on that topic, of course, on this report that I got in front of me, it said that Becky was showing off the baby bump for the first time. Back in May, she revealed that she was going to relinquish the Raw title back in March, and of course, that she was going to take time off because she's pregnant. Since that time, she hasn't posted anything new on social media, so she's been focusing on herself and everything that has to do with the baby. And it just months went by, and now we got to see, Becky well maintained, conserved, and just seeing the natural beauty on her, and with a glow in her eye. That the time is gonna come for when she's gonna bring this child into the world. It's gonna be one heck of a beautiful event for this couple. I can't wait until that news comes out, to be quite honest. And I've been a Becky Lynch fan ever since seeing her on NXT before she was advanced into the main roster. Something got me to like Becky as far as her tenacity, her spunk. She has that never give up attitude, and she hasn't been popular yet out of the four horsewomen of NXT because Charlotte Flair was already getting popular, Sasha Banks was already getting popular, Becky Lynch was going to be the next one, and then of course Bayley at the very end, she was gaining her popularity, but something lured me towards Becky Lynch and how much of a fighter and a last kicker she was. And my God, it was a huge roller coaster ride for her. And now it comes to this where she's going to become a mom. At this point in her life, very, very soon, she's going to bring this child into the world. It's just simply amazing. And of course, I got where this one photo came out. I mean, just look at the couple right here. Just absolutely amazing, looking sharp. Becky looking as beautiful as ever, and like I said, with a glow in her eye. It's just it's breathtaking, to say the least. And of course, those pictures on social media came out on Becky Lynch's Instagram, and it is stated it is unknown when Becky Lynch is supposed to give birth. But if we look at the timeline of events, she found out she was pregnant in March. So she is expected to give birth sometime next month in December. This will be the first child for both Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. So once again, congratulations to Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. Now it'll be just a matter of time until they can bring this child into the world. Seth Rollins is he's only on schedule for tomorrow, and then after that, we won't be seeing Seth Rollins on television for a good while until this baby is pretty much brought into the world, and hopefully we can get some glimpse pictures to see how the beautiful baby's going to look. Can't wait for that. And while we're on the subject of pregnancies as well, we found out this past Wednesday on AEW Dynamite in a promo of sorts with the AEW World Champion Jon Moxley. He stated very shortly that his wife, formerly known as Renee Young in WWE, her real name is Renee Paquette, that she is pregnant as well. And I'm thinking, is this for real? Is this really happening? And it turns out that it was, after that, then all forms of wrestling media, websites, and all the dirt sheets and all that, they brought it out on the open that yes, the story is true. So our congratulations as well to Jon Moxley and Renee Paquette for expecting a baby as well. And as we get into the story for more insider news, it states Moxley and Paquette expecting their first child. Since leaving WWE both, Jon Moxley and Renee Paquette have been busy. Moxley joined AEW and became the world champion, and also is the U.S. champion in New Japan. Paquette has announced both a new cookbook and podcast, but on that night, this past Wednesday night, Moxley revealed something that will keep the couple very busy for a very long time. On Dynamite, he was cutting a promo about being world champion and slipped in the promo that he has a pregnant wife at home. So this was the first that either Jon or Renee have spoken about Renee being pregnant. It is not known for how long Renee is and when will she give birth. So pretty much, once again on our part, we want to send congratulations to Jon Moxley and Renee Paquette on this breaking news of them expecting a child. Many blessings to you both, and we'll be glued to the news to see any further updates as far as this married couple is concerned.
I just want to point out something about this history. I don't know if some of you already know that a certain percentage of men and women that work together unexpectedly leads to certain trysts, certain relationships that come together, and truly it is like you never thought it would happen. I mean, you look at the sports entertainment couples that we see today. We look at Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella, and they have 2 daughters. We look at Miz and the Maurice, also with 2 daughters. We have Bray Wyatt and JoJo. Unfortunately, is no longer with the company for the moment. They also show that sometimes we least expected love trysts and relationships within the company, and now we're finding out the blessing. Oh, I forgot to mention Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett. Also, they have a son or daughter.
They have a daughter, I believe. I could be wrong, but they do have a child.
Nonetheless, this is the one thing that So nonetheless, this is the one thing that we get to see happen. But frankly, I'm gonna say this now. This is now becoming uncommon with couples that with every male wrestler and every female wrestler come together, and all of a sudden they start forming the family, because it just goes to show that despite what happens on the scene, what they feel for each other off camera is something like a blessing. That just goes to show something else, because who would have thought that Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins is,
to be honest, I really never thought that they would actually be a couple.
Yes, and
when I first heard about it, I was like, damn, did it have to be him? And I'm saying that because I really like Becky Lynch.
Yes,
I really.
And who would have thought Jon Moxley?
And I still do. With all due respect.
And who would have thought Jon Moxley and Renee Paquette would end up being together? I mean, Renee is attractive. I mean, for blonde, she's attractive. I mean, he hit the lottery. I mean, truly, she was attractive. But nonetheless, just to close out, because we don't have a lot of time. love trysts within the industry between a man and woman is now uncommon. They start forming families. It's all about good times and happy times like that. That's what it's all about. It's like for I mean, and I'm speaking on myself. I too am glad for Seth and for Becky, for John and Renee, and eventually within a matter of time, more couples are going to form. And will more families form? Only the man upstairs has that answer. But for now, let's just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, because also, they're pretty much out on the road 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There is no people that you can connect with except for the ones that you work with in the industry. So there's hardly ever a time where you can, besides take out time off of your busy schedule, um, you know, give a day by yourself where you can go out, go eat somewhere, uh, discover places and things of that nature. So the only time for camaraderie that a person has is only with your coworkers, with people that you have been in the business with, for doesn't matter how many years, and of course there's going to be people that you have been up and down the roads with for the longest time. Doesn't matter how long you've been in the business, but that's the way the business goes. It's like being a part of a circus, and if you're out there doing world tours and stuff like that with the cohorts and coworkers that you have been with for the longest time, that's pretty much how that ride goes. And yeah, you just never know who are you gonna run into, who you're gonna meet, who you're gonna have a good solid relationship, a solid foundation with, because you never know in this lifetime. Life is so short, and especially with what we got going now with the pandemic ever since March. Um, you know, Life is so precious, um, and it's very um, it's very undefined, unless if you can define life yourself and what you want for yourself.
Life is very precarious.
Yes, exactly. Uh, I couldn't put it better myself. Um, so now we are going to talk about the results, if I can find the report, of the Wednesday Night Wars that took place this week. Um, but it looks to me like I don't think there's even any results about that. But nonetheless, um, we can only, I guess, talk about. I guess for starters, we're going to start with um, NXT. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch NXT on that Wednesday because here I thought I had to record it on my DVR, and it wasn't the case. So I had to wait until Thursday until it ended up on the network. But I'm over it. I was upset about it, but I'm over it. The match with Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley. That is one of the best matches that I have seen up to date with them too. And I think this match that took place, it should be within the top 5, if not within the top 10 for 2020. It was just a lot of back and forth. The intensity. Uh, they were just really clawing at each other. It was just, and it was very grueling at the end, where Rhea Ripley, unfortunately, she suffered an injury. Her ear was, torn up. But nonetheless, she finished the match, and Io Shirai retained the NXT Women's Championship. It was just, it was just something else. It was off the chart. Them two women giving one hell of a show. My congrats to both, and hopefully, we get to see Rhea Ripley come back real soon. But as we get into that story, it says right here the doctors had to reconstruct Ripley's ear. Um, of course, this past Wednesday we saw Io Shirai defending the title against Rhea Ripley. During the match, we saw Ripley bleeding from her ear, and we know what happened that caused the injury. So it's revealed that Rhea Ripley suffered multiple contusions and abrasions on both of her ears. They stated that she had 5 earrings ripped off during the match. I guess, stating piercings that she had on. They stated that doctors had to remove pieces of skin off her ear. Ripley stated that they had to do this in order to make her ear look normal again. No word was given on if this will keep Ripley out of action or not. It is also stated that Io Shirai suffered a sore neck and whiplash during the match. My goodness. She is not currently cleared to compete, but is not expected to be out of action long at all. And they put their hearts and souls on the line. Sometimes we just don't appreciate all that much what they do to entertain us. But damn it, that match that they put on this past Wednesday, it was just completely breathtaking, and it was definitely something else. But they went to all these, they went to hell and back just to give the best performances that they can, and it was just, like I said, it was just something else. But my best wishes to both of them. Hopefully we get to see them back in the ring real soon. And also, while we're on the topic of NXT and injuries, it's also stated that Arturo Ruas, who we previously seen on Raw for what was the segment that is no longer airing, the Raw Battleground? Underground, sorry. I miss it. I still miss it, but they killed the concept. I think that's idiocy, my opinion. So it turns out Arturo Ruas came back to NXT, but unfortunately during his match with Kushida, he injured himself as well. And he has suffered a right bicep injury. So supposedly, now going back to with what happened with Rhea Ripley and such, it stated that Ripley, after this match, she was going to get called up to the main roster. It was told that it was going to be as early as Thursday, and now it is not known after this injury if this could hinder her main roster debut. So this was going to be Rhea Ripley's last match in NXT. But now after this, now time will only tell if Rhea Ripley's going to suffer a setback of advancing to the main roster, or if she's going to be kept in NXT for a little bit more. So those are just my speculations. But honestly, I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to see her move up. But not that I don't want to see her move up, but what the heck is WWE going to do with Rhea Ripley if she goes to Raw or SmackDown? It's just a matter of having the material or someone to work with her. That's what I'm afraid of, because obviously in Raw we're not seeing that. So many changes. We're not seeing that with SmackDown. So many changes. They're only sticking with the principal storylines that we're seeing. Like, for example, Roman Reigns with Jimmy Uso, the Mysterios with Seth Rollins. That just finished, and now of course with Murphy, because of him leaving to be with Becky Lynch, and the unexpected child that is going to be on the way. So just all of these changes that just doesn't make sense, and it just blows everything out of the water, unfortunately.
For me, it's more along the lines of like what things you never anticipated happen. Because yes, I mean last Wednesday both Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley gave it their all in that NXT Women's Title defense, but no one expected neither one of them to get hurt, especially Rhea Ripley with the injuries right on here. I mean, I also want to say nobody expected Chelsea Green to get injured last week because that was her SmackDown debut, and she was supposed to knock it out of the park, but unfortunately the cards were against her last week. No one expected Arturo Ruas to get injured as well because this guy looks like a monster. You know, where we saw him on Raw Underground. He pretty much took on all the comers that were there, especially Braun Strowman, especially Dolph Ziggler, especially am I missing someone?
No, not that I can think of.
I mean, even though he was there very short time, but one thing I learned about the century is that you never know what can happen. I mean, yeah, you're out there giving it you're all for the fans, but something inexplicably is not going to go in your favor. It's like eventually. It's like don't expect to get hurt, but accidents do happen. I mean, no one expected. I mean, for Chelsea Green to get her break on SmackDown and due to an injury, all of a sudden that's get put on the back burner. No one expected Rhea Ripley to get hurt on this past Wednesday's NXT to get hurt, knowing full well that they're already grooming her for the big time. But one thing I can say is that after tomorrow. After what will be the next WWE pay-per-view, leading into next year, they have to keep in mind is that even though they may not have the desired superstar there's always the reserves for the time being. As long as they got talent to work with, they pretty much say, okay, they say we still want to fixate on him or her or them, but for the moment, let's just work with them, and hopefully for Chelsea, and I'm speaking as a human being, for Chelsea, for Rhea, for Arturo, and hopefully they go through a steady recovery. But unfortunately, the show must go on. So all we could do is just work with whom they can rely on, I guess.
That's true. While we're on the subject of NXT, since I can't find anything on the results, the segment that took place with the rematch of Johnny Gargano against Leon Ruff. Another hilarious segment because Damian Priest interfered in that one. He pretty much pulled Leon Ruff. He decked the kid, and that ended up being a DQ for Leon Ruff to remain NXT North American champion at the expense of Johnny Gargano. And that infuriated the guy. But that also lit a fire in Leon Ruff because he was under the impression that everyone thinks he's a joke. And of course, we've seen it from before the rematch, it showed, what Leon Ruff was all about, where he was previously. He was with Evolve Wrestling, and he had his time in wrestling. So I think they got something really good going here with Leon Ruff. And to be honest, I'm smelling a triple threat match with them three for TakeOver War Games. And while we're on the subject of that, pretty much the last segment with Finn Balor returning, and he was going to talk about his update, but unfortunately the Kings of NXT blew it for him, and they decided to be egomaniacs and all of that, and just, it's like, oh, you got no reason to hold a championship anymore. You should just turn it over into us. And, of course, Finn Balor, as the prince, says, look what the cat dragged in. When the cat's away, the mice are out to play. But meaning with all of that, of course, Undisputed Era comes in, and they just beat the hell out of McAfee. The tag team champions, and of course,
Bruiserweight.
Oh yeah, the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne, yes. And what kind of killed it for me is they had something huge there. They went off the air. The rest of the clip just went onto their YouTube channel, and they cut that off. On that they had William Regal announce official War Games between those 8 men. Then another short video where Adam Cole promises that undisputingly, those other four guys, the Kings of NXT, are going to get their asses whooped. But obviously, because of time constraints, you can't put all of that in within one segment, right? I'm disappointed about that, but what I'm not disappointed is what I've predicted all along, that we're gonna see another War Games headlined by the Undisputed Era, and this is their third one, I believe, right?
I think so.
Consecutively. So this one's gonna be another good one for old times, and it's gonna be a classic, another instant classic with Undisputed Era involved. Also, for the first time ever, speaking about War Games, we're going to see a women's War Games match. Shotzi Blackheart is going to have her team against Candice LeRae. She's going to have her team. I believe we already seen a preview of who Candice LeRae might reach out to or who she's in conjunction with after her and Indy Hartwell came out and did damage to I don't know, I'm already falling asleep. But bottom line is I'm smelling Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell, Raquel Gonzalez, Dakota Kai beating one team. So it could, I think it's another 8-person War Games. So that could be the key. And of course, Shotzi Blackheart. We haven't seen anybody on her side. We haven't even seen Shotzi Blackheart this week. So the ones that they attacked, which is Ember Moon, that's popping in my head, blasted brain freeze. Ember Moon and whoever was a tag partner, they both got attacked. So I'm assuming they're going to be with Shotzi Blackheart, but that still opens one more spot. So that's going to be the picture that's going to be painted for us for War Games coming up. And I believe that if there's one thing that I'm excited for once War Games comes up, is the War Games match. Undisputed Era, I definitely want to see them win. So that's going to be something really good for that to come out. Now we move on to AEW. The first segment we got to address, of course, is we already addressed it first with Jon Moxley's promo, the announcement, of course, of Renee Paquette, becoming pregnant. Best wishes to both of them. The segment with Chris Jericho and MJF, the way they were in Vegas partying down, that was just, they just keep pulling it off the top. Instant cameo from Conan being a part of it. And of course, we've seen him in one shot being next to his former boys. Oh no, those were Eddie Kingston's boys. I'm sorry, Santana and Ortiz. But still, having to work with those dudes, I'm pretty sure that's just instant flashbacks of when they were together in Impact Wrestling, working, because Conan worked against Santana and Ortiz while, he had the original crew with Conan at the time. And then it ended up with Hornswoggle in a diaper. I'm like, what the heck are we watching here? This is insane, man. I don't know what is it, but whoever's coming up with all these ideas, I think it's mostly Jericho, maybe a little with MJF. But these guys, they're bringing all this comedic relief stories, ideas. I mean, this is just obnoxious. Ridiculously obnoxious, but good in a way, and we still got the tidbit with Ortiz and Sammy Guevara, that they don't want MJF and Wardlow and the Inner Circle and all that. But, it's 2 against the rest of the group, unfortunately. But still, I mean, that was one heck of a segment right there. What else? Oh, the first match, the Young Bucks against Top Flight for the AEW tag team titles. Stupendous tag team match. We got to see what Top Flight was all about. they're like the new, refreshed, revolutionary students in the game of tag team wrestling. It's just, something new that we see out of them. Of course, going against the experienced team of the Young Bucks, Nick and Matt Jackson, who, one of the greatest and decorated tag teams that we have seen to this date. After a decade, they still keep on going, still experienced. They can get in with the best of them. They can get in with any new kids on the block that there's to challenge them. And, we definitely got to see something new, something hype, something extravagant. I mean, they could go leaps and bounds, these two teams. I want to see another match, from Bucks and Top Flight. It's just amazing thing. And whoever decided to put this on the first card of the show, the best idea so far. And it was just something amazing to watch, without a doubt.
Yes.
What else? Oh, my prediction came true, which, it isn't surprising, right? We got to see the match with Pac against the Blade. That was another phenomenal match. We got to see some bit of ring rust with Pac, but Pac still had a lot to pull out of his head of tricks. And he gave it good to Blade, but Blade returned fire to Pac, and it was just another amazing match that we witnessed. And then at the very end of it all, we saw Pac getting pummeled. Pac wanted to have some words with Eddie Kingston, but then, of course, the Butcher got him from behind, and they just started beating him up like hell. Eddie Kingston came in, started running his mouth. Then Rey Fenix came in, and, of course, he wanted to fend in for Pac. They started beating up on him, and I'm like, come on, where the heck is Pentagon Jr.? Where the heck is Pentagon? Bring him on out here. Where the heck is he? I want to see where the hell he lies. And just like I thought, Cero Miedo, yes. He was the missing key for the reunification of Death Triangle. Yes, el Triángulo de la Muerte is back juntos. Death Triangle, I mean, I like that trio. I love that trio. They are just a sick group when working together. We've seen that before the pandemic. And, that idea was just put on pause. It was just screeched to a halt. Now that they're back together, all three, now we're going to see, this trio war that's going on. And from what I understand, there's something of a trio in the, like a trio tag in the works. So these are not going to be only the two teams that we're going to see in AEW as far as, this new revolutionary idea. So we're going to see more trios in the works. Oh, of course, at the end of the show, we've seen another trio come together with the addition of the big man to Team Taz, and that is
Will Hobbs.
Will Hobbs, yes. After 2 weeks of being asked and seeing how he was being to the rescue of Darby Allin and Cody, it was evident that they got the big guy on lockdown, and he was locked in for Team Taz. Now you got two massive heavy hitters in Will Hobbs, Brian Cage, and the talents of one absolute Ricky Starks. It's just going to be simply amazing. So we're going to have a lot of good action back and forth. So far, we got 3 trio teams. Who else is going to be next? I guess we're going to see down along the line.
I pretty much coined that telecast, aside from all the segment of the Inner Circle slaying Las Vegas, as they say. I pretty much coined that telecast as a night of brutality, a night of a strain of numbers, because that was pretty much what we saw. Because for those of you who saw last Wednesday's telecast of Dynamite, you pretty much see everything that transpired. Yes, we talked about, because right after the Young Bucks defended against Tough Fire. All of a sudden, out comes the Hybrid 2, and they're pretty much just like, how come we're not in the spot? How come we're not in the tag team picture? Pretty much that happened. And then, of course, after what John Moxley said, all of a sudden the champion was found unconscious in the back. It's like pretty much they have no clue as to who was his assailant. And speaking of assaults, Brandy Rhodes also got assaulted by Jade Cargill, and added to that was the assist from Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose. And of course, that night was also the title defense of the NWA Women's Championship between Serena Deeb and Nyla Rose. And all of a sudden, who wanted to make her presence
Nyla Rose?
Sorry. Thunder Rosa.
Thunder Rosa.
Thank you.
She got a rematch at the time.
I apologize. Yeah, it was between Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa for the NWA Women's Championship. And who ended up striking? It was the one who Thunder Rosa got under the skin at the time through Twitter. It was none other than Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And talk about, it was a very it was somewhat a very chaotic night, and of course led to that what happened at the end with Wallhouse betraying Cody and Darby Allin to join Team Taz. And I want to take this time to address something. Of course, none of you already know, but it is officially confirmed that there is an official contract signing with AEW. Someone joined the AEW roster, and that is none other than Matt Sydal. And of course, we've seen Matt Sydal all over. We've seen him in New Japan. We've seen him in Ring of Honor. We've seen him in Impact. And he wrestled in the WWE as Evan Bourne. And yes, Matt Sydal is one of the most quintessential wrestlers. He's talented, high-flying, defiant, and pretty much he could help AEW stay the course. And I, for one, am can't wait to see what Matt Sydal can bring to AEW. Possibly could we see a new TNT champion on the horizon? We'll see what can happen, but hopefully it will go good for Matt Sydal, possibly by the beginning of next year.
One more thing, he is experienced as well. After leaving WWE, he went to other wrestling promotions to better himself, and he has done that. We witnessed his in-ring work in New Japan. He's just more better than ever. Now coming back into the States and now being a part of AEW, I think he's definitely going to bring in and show off some of that experience. Even though when he started at All Out, it wasn't the best, introduction of him, into the States. And, but he redeemed himself. I mean, there was a little sloppiness at All Out when he was first introduced, but he redeemed himself nonetheless. But that's not going to take away from Matt Sydal how athletic, how gifted he is, and how much of a true ass kicker he is. Really, just simply awesome. What did you think of Dr. Baker's segment on AEW Dark that took place this week? What was it? The waiting room?
The waiting room.
I'll give you my honest opinion. To me, it's like if you were watching an episode of WWF Superstars and you either were watching the Snake Pit, Piper's Pit, the segment with Brother Love, the segment with
Funeral Parlor.
The Funeral Parlor, yeah.
Coincidentally.
Mm-hmm. So pretty much any of those corner segments, it's like if you were transported back to late 80s, early 90s. You were watching Superstars of Wrestling. That's kind of what it's taking you back to. I'm like, I'd rather be watching The Funeral Parlor. I'd rather be watching, Roddy Piper run his mouth and, stuff like that. I'd rather see those old, because it's literally taking you to old school, like, how they had those corner segments and you have some time dedicated to that. So it was a valiant effort on Dr. Baker's part, because it was leaked out beforehand that, they were going to try something like this. And it worked. And they had TH2 as their guest. So to me, it was like a flashback of old, to be honest. And I still say to this day, even though the world doesn't know, but in my opinion, I think Dr. Britt Baker should have a dental assistant by her side. Most definitely. I would say me because I had experience, but that's just a joke, to be honest. But yeah, that's my opinion about the waiting room. I don't know how you feel about it.
I mean, it was good. I mean, even though this was the very first installment of the waiting room, and if they really want to embellish her heel character with this concept, I think you start off with one, but hopefully little by little she starts bettering herself as a heel, and eventually the doors will open for her again. Hopefully she starts assigning the ranks in the women's division again.
Of course. And speaking of women's division, we're gonna close the Wednesday Night Wars talk. The card for next week, there's 4 matches already announced. Anna Jay's going to have her title shot against Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's World title. Can't wait to see that one. That one's going to be pretty interesting. Will Hobbs, the newest member of Team Taz, he's going to be in action. Chris Jericho and Jake Hager of the Inner Circle, they're going to take on SCU members Frankie Kazarian and the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels. And, of course, the match that I'm looking forward to is the one with Pac and Rey Fenix. They are both going to take on the Butcher and the Blade this upcoming Wednesday night on TNT. Check your local listings. And, of course, with NXT as well, I'm pretty sure the one thing we know for sure, Wade Barrett's not going to be there on commentating, so he called in for a favor to the one and only Kevin Owens, and he's going to be in his chair next week along with Vic Joseph. That's pretty much all that is known on that fact. So that's what's talked about of the Wednesday Night Wars for this week. And now let's go on to the topic of Survivor Series. We already witnessed Raw. We already witnessed SmackDown. My question is, who had the best go-away show leading towards Survivor Series? My opinion, after watching Raw and SmackDown, most definitely Monday Night Raw. Because, despite the fact that both shows I've been plugging in a lot of times about the farewell towards The Undertaker, and I believe that is going to be one of the pinnacle highlights of this year's Survivor Series, is the 30 years of the dead man's existence. That is one huge trajectory and number that you cannot take away from Mark Callaway. One hell of a respected performer, wrestler, and everything that goes along with it. That this guy most definitely not only deserves a Hall of Fame induction, but deserves such tremendous homage for his work over the 30 years of The Undertaker's existence in World Wrestling Entertainment. But yeah, my opinion, who had the best go-away show? Definitely Monday Night Raw. They definitely did a little bit more as far as the main event was. Drew Galloway against Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. They just made a massive plug. And after Drew Galloway appearing on Friday Night SmackDown last week, which he did the same for this week, the one thing I didn't get was having a segment of a contractual signing with these two men, the WWE Champion and the Undisputed Champion. Why did they do something like this, especially for Survivor Series weekend? I do not know. But let's not forget that these two men have been involved in last year's Survivor Series when they were part of their respective brand teams. Roman was still with SmackDown. Drew Galloway was with Raw, and they still are this year. So now the view is a little bit different. They are the champions of their respective brands. So who do I see having the definite numbers and pretty much with the momentum on their side? It's kind of hard to tell because they both have momentum on their side respectively for themselves and their own brands as champions. So this one's really going to be one hell of a nitty gritty. But if I'm forced to pick one person, I say it would be Roman Reigns. Not just because he's got this angle of him being the tribal chief and all that, but just how convincing, he says his words with such conviction, just leans me towards him and believe that he's going to do what he says. Not to say that Drew Galloway's not going to do what he says as well, but damn it, if I know someone who would be sneakingly, devastatingly get one over on Drew Galloway, that would be Roman Reigns. That's who I got my part on that match for Survivor Series.
Let me start out by saying that I too agree with you that which one of these two shows had the best go home show for tomorrow night. I also say Raw because of how it was all planned out. I was really the highlights for that telecast were the title matches, and I'm going to talk about pretty much from mid-October after Hell in a Cell leading to tomorrow, because evidently from what I was sensing there were a lot of twists and turns, and yes, we saw last Monday the Hurt Business, Cedric and Shelton, challenging the New Day, and I honestly thought that Cedric and Shelton were going to take the belts away from the New Day, but unfortunately that was not the case. The New Day ended up retaining it. However, what was the case last Monday is that, like you mentioned, Isman, Drew McIntyre defeated Randy Orton to once again become the WWE champion, and of course, from what transpired also with the Survivor Series teams themselves, because we all know who comprises the men's Survivor Series team for Raw. It is none other than the phenomenal AJ Styles, the Monster Among Men, Braun Strowman, Keith Lee, the Limitless Keith Lee, Riddle, and Sheamus. So now we got that team set, and then everybody said, okay, we got Team SmackDown, and there's a gap. So therefore, Team SmackDown comprises of Kevin Owens, of Jey Uso, of Seth Rollins, of the King Corbin, and pretty much say, okay, who's going to be the next superstar to join Team SmackDown? And of course,
who's the last one to take
who's the missing link? So therefore, from what we saw last Friday on SmackDown, WWE official Adam Pearce took it upon himself, said, "I see you as a missing link. You got heart. You got desire." And therefore, was obviously none other than to Otis. So therefore, we now know that Otis will join Team SmackDown. So therefore, that match was set. And the one thing that has to be mentioned, okay, but before I get to that, we now go to the women's. Now, but before I get to the Raw women's team, I'm gonna go start with the SmackDown women's team, because the SmackDown women's team looks very formidable, because we got the Riot Squad, Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan, the EST, Bianca Belair, and unfortunately there were two gaps, and unfortunately there was not there hasn't been decided as to who will be the one. Also last Friday, Adam Pearce went to he said he has chosen who he believes is the team captain for the SmackDown women's team, and he said she's very ruthless, she's very cunning, and so forth. Ironically, he chose the former SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley to helm the SmackDown Women's team, and therefore that only leaves one spot opening. And of course, when we saw last Friday, there was a match between Natalya and Tamina. The winner will take that final spot. And from what we saw last Friday, Tamina gave it her all, but unfortunately, it was Natalya who got the spot. So therefore, those women, what is Natalya, what is Bayley, what is the Riot Squad, the EST Bianca Belair comprises team SmackDown for the women's. Now on the Raw, from what we thought was a team, all of a sudden another twist happened, because we saw for biologic who everybody asks who's the captain. Unfortunately, there's not a captain. There's co-captains, and the co-captains are the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler, and the Irresistible Force, Nia Jax, and of course by logic the one Mrs. Lana. But what we thought that Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose, yes. We thought Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke would also be participating. Unfortunately, twist happened. Mandy Rose suffered an injury during a match.
Yeah, that was a bummer.
Yes,
it really was.
And Dana Brooke,
not just for her, also for Dana Brooke, since they come as a package.
Yeah. Dana Brooke was cowardly attacked by reckoning of retribution. So that left. So those two openings were left, and who ended up taking those openings? None other than the Ceci Southern Belle, Lacey Evans, and Payne Royce. But unfortunately, things have not changed. Did it change much? Yes, it changed a little bit. But the one thing that cannot, let me say, hopefully that there's a dynamic between those two. And of course, I cannot say which one of these two teams, be it the men's or the women's, can pull off a win. Yes, there are differences. Yes, there are egos. But if they can find a way to come together, because we saw constantly with the men's team how on the Raw side, they just can't get along. I mean, whether you got, I mean, AJ tries to say I'm the captain. Well, by logic, he's the self-proclaimed captain of the Raw men's team, but he just can't find a way to say to Sheamus, to Riddle, to Keith, to
Braun Strowman.
Braun Strowman, yes, Braun Strowman is like we gotta find a way to work together. But could the same discord happen with the men's team on SmackDown? Yes, yes, Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, Otis, and
King
Corbin. I'm missing somebody else. I'll mention for men.
King Corbin, Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, Otis. There's someone else. We just mentioned the guy.
Yes, I did.
But here's what I wanted to get to. As far as with the men's teams from both sides, I'm going to leave it up in the air because we really don't know who's going to take this. But yeah, the one team that's really acting like little kids right now is definitely the Raw side because they just can't get it together. Too many egos. Too many issues. AJ wants to be the leader of the group nonetheless. Yes, he has the winning mentality and the tactics and, wanted to form a strategy, but the others are just not on board with it. Understandably so, but still at the same time.
Seth Rollins. The kick yes.
There you go, Seth Rollins.
Apologies.
Yeah. But the thing of it is that I see SmackDown having a better chance than Raw. And like I wanted to mention, if we revisit past history with Survivor Series as far as, when it comes to the Battle of the Brands, SmackDown has been winning a lot in the last number of years. With the exception of last year, NXT took it. And I think that was a refresher amongst all things because we got to see fantasy matches or fantasy lockups that we never thought we would see. Like, for example, Roman Reigns and Keith Lee. That's one perfect example. That's one we never thought that in a different spectrum of the run we would be seeing these two guys in the ring together and go at it, with them being in their respective brands. Keith Lee was with NXT at the time. Roman Reigns was still on SmackDown. So NXT, for that one, that was owned, rightfully so. And we could have expected it this year too, but with the pandemic going on, I can understand why, all these executives, Vince McMahon on top of that, why they don't want a lot of bodies going around, with these matches and stuff like that. So they just limit to Raw and SmackDown. Maybe next year things might change and the pandemic's over. We might see that come up again. Only time will tell. So that's my take for the guys. For the women, I really can't say much of the women, but I'll throw in two possibilities. Like I mentioned before, Maybe it's possible that we could see Lana take it all the way through, but they got to eliminate. But the SmackDown side's got to eliminate Nia Jax first because she's the heavy set. She's the powerful one. All the SmackDown women's got to eliminate Nia Jax first. That's how I see for them to get an advantage. Then from there, then they'll start eliminating, back and forth. But I can see Lana possibly taking this all the way to the end, and then there'll be a pattern of why she has survived all those Samoan drops from Nia Jax for the last 9 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because also, if you notice on the network, and I just found this out today, there is an episode of WWE Chronicle stating, or pretty much based up about Lana and everything that she has been through. Let me give you the info on it. So it states, Lana is determined to prove her doubters wrong on the road to Survivor Series of this year, even if it means going through table after table. The Ravishing Russian shares her journey from her training as a pro ballerina in Latvia, if that's how it's pronounced. If not, I apologize, to competing in front of millions of fans as a WWE superstar. We all know that she's still married to Miro, formerly known as Rusev. And even he had his stake and share and his opinion about Lana having to go through 9 tables. But my opinion is, yeah, I got sick and tired of seeing that, but at the same time, I want Lana to stand up for herself. So her going through 9 weeks of hell at the hands of Nia Jax, that only says one thing. She's not going to give up. So something in this match for Survivor Series is going to tell me that one of my predictions of Lana to be smart about this would be the last Survivor and maybe take it for the Raw team. That's just one of my predictions, one of my 2 predictions. Either Team SmackDown wins it, or if Raw has a chance, Team SmackDown nonetheless has to eliminate Nia Jax first so that Lana can take it at the very end.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I will also say that too. I mean, if Lana does make it through, but by logic, if say hypothetically Team SmackDown ends up getting the victory, we're probably going to see Lana go through a table for the 10th and last time.
Yeah, that I'm not going to discard that possibility because, yeah, typically that would be the way this spoke of the wheel would turn and go. So, yeah, I will have that in the back of my mind. But nonetheless, I say once we end this show, we should check out Chronicles of Lana because obviously this could be a major de facto clue into what could happen tomorrow night for Survivor Series. And while we're still on the topic of Survivor Series, and we pretty much already ran down the card, the men and women's teams, Reigns versus McIntyre for the WWE Champion versus Undisputed Champion, United States Champion Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn. We both know who's going to take that one. Mm-hmm. If for some miraculous reason Sami Zayn pulls it off, I will be damned. I'll say this right now, I will be damned. But I say, I don't know if you agree, but I say Bobby Lashley's going to win this one.
I say Bobby Lashley's going to probably win this match.
As far as the tag team champions for Raw and SmackDown, New Day versus the boys who want the smoke.
The Street Profits.
The Street Profits, yes. I wanted you to say it, damn it.
Yes.
The Street Profits. If we really could be honest about this, New Day will always be one of the best decorated tag teams in WWE history. Already 10 times. Put that right next to Harlem Heat. As far as tag team championship belts are concerned, 10 times. Harlem Heat, right next to them, the New Day. Doesn't matter organizations, but we're talking about how many times those tag team championships have been held in the business. Doesn't matter which company. New Day deserve that right. That's never going to be taken away from them. But at this point, the Street Profits are hot. They've been hot. And coming into Raw, SmackDown, they've been proving it time and time again. Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, they're just one heck of an item as a tag team. If I would have to make a bet, or if I'm forced to pick a team, I'm going to have to go. As much as I like the New Day and all of that, and I like also the Street Profits, I am going to have to go with Street Profits. I say they need this one. They got to have this one. New Day's got to give this one to Street Profits. I know we're gonna have a hell of a performance from both these teams. Street Profits all the way.
Yes, I also agree with you too that if we're gonna have to choose between the New Day or the Street Profits and winning this the best of the best tag match, I would also go with the Street Profits because the New Day will always be one of the most significant forces in the WWE. But yes, the Street Profits got momentum ever since they've been called up from NXT. They've been running this crest really, really high ever since they debuted on Raw. They've been the Raw Tag Team Champions. Now they're the SmackDown Tag Champions. So who can stop these guys? I mean, Angelo, Montez. I mean, they're on the rise lately, and truly it'll be a feather in the cap to say they defeated one of the most decorated tag teams in the WWE at this current era. That being the New Day.
And while we're still on the topic of Survivor Series, as far as Farewell to the Undertaker, we can't wait to watch the segment. We heard that some Hall of Famers are going to be there. Couple of members of the Bone Street crew are going to be there as well. So we can't wait to see. I think that segment is going to be the one that's going to be near and dear to every heart of every single fan of the WWE Universe, wrestling in general, because Taker, 30 years is a huge deal, especially when it's anonymous with the pay-per-view name of Survivor Series. Every single year that goes by. And since we also got the 30 Days of the Dead Man on the network, what are the good things to watch? Well, so far, everything that they've been bringing out onto the network has been very, very interesting. I want to start out with the first thing that we saw, which was WWE Untold. When it came to the story of Undertaker, and not the story, but the storyline of Taker and Randy Orton back then in the year of 2004, 2005 at that time. They're just, there's been things behind the scenes that we did not know that took place, even though we already seen that storyline for what was aired. The matches, memory bouts that they had on SmackDown leading to WrestleMania and other pay-per-views afterwards. That one was a pretty interesting storyline and flashback to go to. I saw personally meeting The Undertaker. You haven't seen it yet. You should check that one out. It's got some pretty interesting stories of that. The documentary on Paul Bear, of the Mortician, the story of Paul Bear. William Mooney. We had no idea that this man, may God rest his soul, was literally a mortician. Literally a mortician. Literally a pallbearer. So I think that was a very wise choice on his part. He had something to fall back on in case wrestling did not work out for him. And this was a guy who literally made his dreams come true. He wanted to be a mortician, and he wanted to be in the business that he loved, which was professional wrestling. So I would recommend, if you guys haven't seen this documentary on Paul Bear, you should check this one out. This is one that I personally guarantee that you're going to love and you're going to find this deeply interesting. I still can't get over the fact that, when I saw the cover of this documentary on the network, on the interface of the network, something in my heart told me, you got to check this one out. I bet you this one's you're going to find so interesting. And I am not lying to you. It is very interesting. Somewhere down along the line, I am going to see it again. But yeah, I recommend you should watch that documentary of the Mortician. Same thing with the Brothers of Destruction. How Glenn Jacobs, Mark Callaway, they are in some sort of a inside of a orchestra hall or something like that, and they sit on chairs facing each other, telling stories of how they met in professional wrestling and how they met before coming to WWE, because they met somewhere else before coming into the World Wrestling Federation at the time. How the story of Kane and Undertaker came about. Jay, to this day, I don't know if you'll agree with me, but as far as telling one of the greatest stories ever in the history of this business, in the history of WWE, WWF, Kane and Undertaker, this story, they told it so beautifully. Incorporating Paul Bearer, incorporating other people out, the outskirts of this tale between Undertaker and Kane. This is one that I can always gravitate to because they just told this story. They just told the story beautifully. They always did. The match that they had, the first match that they had at WrestleMania, outstanding. The Inferno match. Other matches afterwards. That Kane and Taker, they had some of the best matches. They had some of the best tag team matches as the Brothers of Destruction in its early inceptions of it. Afterwards, not so much because, these are the only two tallest guys that nobody in the locker room wants to even get in the ring with as a tag team. Nobody wants to screw around with Kane and Undertaker. Who wanted to? You would be an idiot to having to do so. But nonetheless, that's another documentary, another segment that you should definitely check out on the network. I do want to check out for sure after Survivor Series, the Broken Skull Sessions Part 2 with Stone Cold interviewing The Undertaker. Here I thought there was only Part 1, but now it turns out there's a Part 2 of it. So can't wait to see what are the topics they're going to talk about in that second part as well. And I know we're already past our scheduled time, but to close out this show, we are going to talk about the Thunderdome at the Amway Center has officially come to an end, but it will be moved elsewhere. And from what I understand, and having to read into the story, that the Thunderdome is going to be it's going to be inside of the Tropicana Field. Do you know where the Tropicana Field is by any chance?
It's in Tampa.
It's in Tampa, Florida.
It's in Tampa. It's the home of the Rays of the Major League Baseball.
Oh, okay. See now, that part I kind of forgot about, but I wanted to ask you, since normally you would be watching baseball and know names of these arenas around the country and such. So as we get into this story, and this is the last story we're going to talk about. So the Thunderdome is moving on December 11th. When WWE started running the Thunderdome inside of the Amway Center in Orlando, they knew that it's not going to last forever. So reports were coming in that they had to be out around the first week of December, and they would have to be in need of another venue to run the Thunderdome. So the rumor was that the new venue would be Tropicana Field in Tampa, and WWE just confirmed that on the 19th of November, which was just a couple of days ago. So the Thunderdome is going to be still around, but not in the Amway Center, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be moved into the Tropicana Field in Tampa, Florida. So we will expect to see a whole new scenery of the Thunderdome within the weeks to come. And we're not going to see that right away, but it's going to be within the weeks to come. Can't wait to see, because I'm pretty sure, just imagining how big that baseball field is.
Yes.
Now they're probably going to put more people, more screens of fans virtually inside of that version of the Thunderdome. It's going to be something huge. But we don't know how they're going to. I'm pretty sure there might be some pictures, previews of how it's going to look like before unveiling the actual thing. Can't wait to see that. So we're going to end this episode stating that tomorrow is Survivor Series, tomorrow night on the network, and we are going to do a live reaction video to what takes place tomorrow night on the WWE network. And this is one that we have to share after giving our opinion to what happened on the previous AEW pay-per-view event of Full Gear. Once again, thank you very much for that reception, the likes, and the views. It is very appreciated. But yes, we're going to do tomorrow night a live reaction video towards WWE Survivor Series 2020 with all the matches that are going to be on the card, especially with what happens with the segment of the farewell to The Undertaker. And Jade, we can't wait to see what's going to happen in that segment, and also the matches that are going to take place tomorrow night. So, anything you want to add before we sign out?
Well,
as far as Survivor Series or other things are concerned.
Well, I just want to say that we've seen Mark Callaway do this character, the Undertaker, for many years, and this man pretty much earned the right to become the constant of the WWE. I mean, he pretty much was the voice inside the dressing room, and we cannot take away all the moments happen. And not so much Survivor Series, but pretty much all the moments he had, the great matches that he had, the streak that he created ever since WrestleMania, and the men who pretty much were by his side for many years, and that was none other than Bill Moody, Paul Bearer, so Glenn Jacobs, who we know as Kane, and Vince McMahon, and others. And we cannot forget the matches that he had, constantly evolving Kane, constantly evolving Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and other guys, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, CM Punk, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and it was just one upon after that, and he just
Bret Hart and
yes, with them, Kevin Nash as Diesel, Sid Justice, Sid Vicious, whoever he is. He pretty much worked with whoever can. Of course the Silverback man, but whoever. I mean, because I just want to condense this before we sign off, that there will never be another great wrestler like The Undertaker, whether he's the Phenom, the Deadman, the American Badass. He is the guy who pretty much lived vicariously through the industry, through the fans. He is truly one of the most passionate men that gave his life for this industry, and he will leave us nothing but everlasting memories that we will always will cherish, we will relive, and that is something that will never go away.
On my behalf, Mark Callaway, Mr. Mark Callaway, did a tremendous job in bringing The Undertaker to life. Doesn't matter what incarnation of The Undertaker he has brought to the fans, whether it be the original Deadman, the American Badass, the Return of the Deadman. He has done so many. And at first, when I was a kid, when I first saw him, I'm like, who the heck is this? And I was still a Hulk Hogan fan. And when he took the title away from Hulk Hogan at Survivor Series in 91, I believe, or 92.
Yeah.
Something told me that it was the end of an era and that Undertaker's here to stay. I'm like, damn. But then as I grew up, my brother and I grew up, and we see the evolution of sports entertainment, and Undertaker's still in the business for as long as he has. Says a lot about the man, says a lot about the character. Undertaker was just one of those special, unique characters that we will always cherish, remember, and look back at the matches that he has set in the archives. And those are one that I would always love to revisit. Doesn't matter how long that journey was of over 30 years. There's always special matches, special chapters, special promos. Anybody that has been incorporated with the Undertaker, from Paul Bearer, Kane, any of the people that he's worked with, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, any of them, from his former wife Sarah to his now wife Michelle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Michelle. I didn't remember her last name.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, from his former wife Sarah to now Michelle. The Undertaker's the most interesting character out of every single character that there has been in this business for as long as we can remember. And we know that he's in lockdown with the WWE. Doesn't matter if we don't see him on television anymore, but he'll still, from what I understand, he'll be still making appearances. There'll still be likenesses with the Undertaker for years to come. So this may be a goodbye, but it's more like a see you later type of thing, and that we know for sure. And we cannot wait for tomorrow night. Survivor Series will take place, yes, tomorrow night on the WWE Network. And Jade, it'll only be a matter of hours until we do our live reaction of the event of Survivor Series being aired on the WWE Network tomorrow night. Hopefully we get to see something with the pre-show. What's it called? The kickoff?
No, the kickoff.
Hopefully there's a kickoff, maybe a match or not. But if not, then we can definitely call the matches on the card. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it from our part tonight on this episode of the Wrestling Weekend Recap. This has been Jade. I am Ace Mon X. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Have a great weekend, and hopefully you can join us tomorrow night for the live reaction of WWE Survivor Series 2020. Stay safe, mask up. Have a good night, everyone. Peace and love worldwide. We hope to see you join us tomorrow night for Survivor Series. Thank you very much.
And enjoy your holidays.
And enjoy your holiday too. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night, everyone.